Welcome to the program. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Meresha Owiti. Now, Kenya's National Treasury hid behind financial jargon to mask the country's financial crisis. Appearing before the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich actually described the crisis as being temporary. But as our reporter Sam Ogina now reports, Treasury is planning to borrow billions of shillings to cushion the government on the economic slowdown.
Amid growing anxiety in the country, the Cabinet Secretary's debt with the parliamentarians was a much anticipated affair. But the man who holds the country's purse strings sought to assure the nation, describing the financial crisis in the country as a temporary phenomenon that was now clearing. In fact, he told the MPs that Kenya was not facing a financial crunch.
Let me, Mr. Chairman, say that there are no liquidity crisis as such.
Rotich attributes the economic slowdown witnessed recently to what he called unusual circumstances. In a complex explanation, Rotich told the Budget Committee that there had been a mismatch of revenue and cash demand by ministries, departments and government agencies, and that revenue collection of the first quarter of the 2015-2016 financial year was slower than expected.
Typically, there is usually a mismatch of available resources and the demand of resources, and this usually occurs throughout the year. We normally experience this because revenues are collected on a daily basis, and there is never time that there is sufficient revenues to meet the cash demands.
Despite the assurance that all is well, Treasury plans to borrow 220 billion shillings to plug the budget deficit. Rotich says the money will come from external sources to lower the already high interest rates. Treasury wants Parliament to fast-track the implementation of the excess duty bill. The bill proposes to increase taxation on imported motor vehicles, alcoholic beverages and juices to show up revenues as the government looks for additional money to finance the country's budget.
I would just like to appeal to the committee, given the kind of discussion that we've had, if Parliament can move more rapidly to ensure that that excise bill becomes an act, and therefore we can start collecting revenues.
Treasury has admitted to the delaying of disbursement of funds, but said it was due to a 48 billion shillings payout to clear its debt. Nonetheless, it says Kenya's borrowing rate and its debt levels are sustainable. The institution now wants KRA to revise its strategy in revenue collection to cushion the country from future financial difficulties.
The KRA and the National Treasury we are also planning to engage a consulting firm to help in identifying key weaknesses in the areas, especially in the customs, and come up with a strategy to conclusively deal with the challenges in this area. We are estimating that we can collect additional 21 billion going forward if all these strategies are put in place.
The slowdown has affected counties and operations of various government agencies, with Treasury admitting the country is behind schedule in effecting the 2015-2016 budget. Development projects whose uptake is rated at a meager 7% since the beginning of the current financial year have been the hardest hit. The Senate has now summoned the Cabinet Secretary over the same matter. Sam Ogina, KTN News.
So here's the thing. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich has described the financial crisis currently facing the country as temporary. So tonight on KTN Prime, we are asking, are you encouraged by the Cabinet Secretary's assurance that the cash crunch is temporary? What are your thoughts? You've seen what has been going on in the country for the last couple of months. Are you encouraged by the Cabinet Secretary's assurance that the cash crunch is temporary? Tweet us at KTN News. Tweet me directly at Lindo Gutu. You can send a short message to the number 22155. That number is absolutely free for you. Let us know what you think, and I'll keep sampling your views during this bulletin. So the Kenyan media has blasted the National Assembly for passing the controversial Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Bill. The Kenya Editors Guild, the Media Council of Kenya, and the Kenya Union of Journalists, among other professional bodies, termed the move as draconian, unconstitutional and retrogressive. They called on the Senate to reject the controversial clauses aimed at gagging the media. The media expressed its outrage as the National Assembly set aside yesterday's vote, with the leader of majority, Edin Duale, calling for more sober consideration of the bill.
Clause 34 be deleted. Will as many members as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many members as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
The Wednesday morning vote by MPs to retain clauses 34 and 35 of the controversial Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Bill was a vote that would open a new battlefront between MPs and the media.
The provisions are so draconian and altogether unconstitutional.
The two clauses, 34 and 35, impose a $500,000 shilling fine and a jail term of up to 2 years or both for journalists who publish any false or scandalous reports on Parliament, its committees or its proceedings. The Kenya Editors Guild, the Media Council of Kenya and the Kenya Union of Journalists see the bill as an attempt to gag the media and cushion parliamentarians from scrutiny.
What are members of the National Assembly so afraid of? Is this an attempt to shield members from scrutiny by the very people who put them in office?
This will, in essence, will interfere with the rights of journalists to practice journalism without fear, and is also likely to hamper investigative journalism.
The passage of the bill is the fourth attempt by the 11th Parliament to limit media freedom.
We see this move as an affront to the hard-earned democratic space and an attempt to roll back the gains of democracy Kenyans fought so hard to secure.
With the media vying to go to any lengths to safeguard media freedom, the National Assembly, only a day after passing the bill, was back to the drawing board on the controversial bill.
Members should be very modest enough to accept that due consideration may not have been taken during the passage of the bill. It is therefore prudent that we consider deferring decision on this matter until further consultation have been made.
And MPs were agreed that the Wednesday vote was not well informed.
Speaker, having said that, I think I listened to you very carefully. The day there was parliamentary breakfast, when we engaged the media, and Speaker, you said, as the head of this House, that no draconian law that gags the media shall go through this House. Now, Speaker, I want to plead with you to live by your promise to this nation.
Mr. Speaker, my committee is prepared and ready. As soon as it comes to our committee, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to amend all the relevant areas, Mr. Speaker, so that we can make it constitutional.
This bill will not only end with this House, it is also heading to another House. I am sure you know what will happen. Mr. Speaker, do you want to look bad? We are told by another House, which is lower than ours, Mr. Speaker, that we did not know what we were doing.
The Speaker deferred putting to question of the bill, which would have paved the way for the bill to go for the third reading.
The issues that have been raised by the members that have spoken are weighty enough. They are of a constitutional nature. These are the matters that it is only fair that this House gives itself sufficient time to consider.
The matter has now been referred to the House Business Committee to decide when the bill will be reintroduced before the floor of the House. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Let's now focus on your health. It is a cardinal rule for medical practitioners to swear under oath that they will safeguard human life throughout their medical practice. But recent incidents of medical negligence across the public and private hospitals in the country tell a different story. The most recent was that of Alex Madaga, an accident victim who was allegedly denied specialized treatment by 4 hospitals, including Kenyatta National Hospital. So, do the medics mean their words when they take the Hippocratic oath, or is it just a formality? Our reporter Murimi Mwangi went out in search for the answers.
They yearn for compassion and care, considered a right for every patient who seeks treatment in hospital. But whenever the issue of money crops up, Well, compassion takes a back seat as patients suffer negligence by the healthcare providers.
Sasa hata service hakuna. Hata madaktari wengi wamefungwa private. So tunafinyika ni ukweli.
It is for this very reason that a young family is in mourning. The late Alex Madaga's family. He died as he waited for specialized treatment for 18 hours. This after being turned away by 4 hospitals, including Kenya's premier referral facility, the Kenyatta National Hospital. And although Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia wants answers from the Kenya Medical Practitioners Board in 3 days, the Kenya Medical Practitioners Union seems well prepared with the answers.
If a hospital says that we do not have capacity or that we do not have the ability to offer you these services and then they refer you, there's no provision in the law for them to be punished.
Wanaweza kuacha hapo kama wewe ni mgonjwa akutibu, akuangalia ni nini shida ni nini. Sinaona hiyo. Kama mgonjwa nafaa ushughulikiwe haraka.
Before registration, all medical practitioners take the Hippocratic Oath, an oath that compels them to safeguard human life by all means possible. The oath reads in part, I will tread with care in matters of life and death, if it is given to me to save a life. Through the oath, the medics further swear, and I quote, I will remember I treat a sick human being whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems. And so, what has happened to the medics thereafter?
There are a number of clerks and administrators who do their jobs well, but quite a number of them also they don't have the empathy and they also don't have the ethics and the codes of medical practice. So if you go to any hospital, public or private, and the first person that you see is not a healthcare worker.
Sisi ni wanyonge. Hatuna hiyo pesa mingi ya kupeleka mtoto private kama mimi mwenyewe.
You must understand that I'm just human. I cannot provide. The person who is supposed to provide is not doing enough. That's what we are saying. That the health sector has been underfunded.
All the 4 hospitals reported to have denied Madaga treatment now claim they did not demand for cash deposit before admission. It is not the first time that medics have been accused of being careless when handling patients who are in the dire need of treatment. 2 years ago, KTN News covered an exclusive incident where this woman delivered on the floor at the Bungoma District Hospital.
Mara unakaa hapo 1.5 hours hujauliza wewe ni mgonjwa wapi? Shida kama hiyo. Dawa si unaambiwa uende ukanunue. Na pengine una pesa.
The same community that we serve, that is where we come from. These are our relative. No doctor, no health profession, a clinical officer rather nurse will want to lose a patient on such a ground.
But as Madaga's family prepares to lay him to rest, the hope of Kenyans across the country is that he will be the last victim of negligence by medics. The question that remains unanswered, however, is, do medics swear the Hippocratic Oath just as a formality for admission to the health profession? Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Remy Mwangi, they're asking pertinent questions. Let's cross over to Kampala now, where Uganda's key opposition leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye, was arrested yet again at his home in the outskirts of the capital city. Besigye had defied police orders to remain indoors. He addressed a rally in the eastern part of Uganda against a directive from the Ugandan Electoral Commission. Here's our Ugandan reporter, Solomon Serwanja, with the details.
The home of opposition leader and Forum for Democratic Change Party presidential flag bearer Dr. Kizza Besigye was cordoned off by police officers from as early as 6 a.m. The heavy deployment follows an order earlier issued by the police chief General Kale Kayihura against any form of campaigning and mobilization by any presidential aspirants before the nomination date of 9th November.
Now, the EC made clarification and pronounced themselves on this matter, namely that at this stage of the elections roadmap, presidential aspirants can only consult but cannot be involved, let alone address campaign rallies.
For a man who believes in civil disobedience, Besigye buckled up to go against the police's instructions.
I guess their intention is the usual one, to violate my constitutional rights. And in this particular regard, I think to interfere with activities that are aimed at challenging Mr. Museveni for power.
The opposition politician then made his way to the vehicle, but could only go so far.
That may endanger property of the people and disruptions on highways, and under preventive arrest, we are going to arrest you to prevent that. So you have a choice to go back or we arrest you.
I am fighting for freedom. I cannot start turning my home into the prison. So if they want to arrest me, they have the means to abuse state power. They can abuse state power and arrest me and hold me illegally, as they have done previously. But I am not going to go and turn my home into a prison willfully. That is not going to happen.
Besigye, however, opted once again to go against the police orders. The men in uniform then whisked Besigye away. He was later taken to Nagalama Professional Police Post located in Mukono district, about 30 kilometers from the capital Kampala. Besigye was arrested alongside Chadondo East Member of Parliament Ibrahim Semuju Nganda, the area MP where the campaign was to take place.
Well, those in the opposition insist that the law that the Electoral Commission is invoking to arrest Dr. Besigye cannot take effect. The reasoning is that Dr. Besigye has not fully been nominated by the Electoral Commission as a presidential candidate. But amidst these legal gymnastics, the police insists that they are not about to release Besigye. Solomon Serwanja, KTN News, Kampala, Uganda.
Let's now move to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Remember, it's just a few days to the presidential election, and the opposition coalition there has exposed what it calls glaring mistakes in the permanent voter register. The register was released by the Tanzanian electoral body for examination by political parties. Our reporter Francis Ontomwa has the details.
Tukichelewa zaidi tu, madhara yake ni kufungwa goli la mkono.
It is now barely a week to the much anticipated general election here in Tanzania, and controversy has stalked the National Elections Commission and its 23.7 million strong voter register. In perhaps the latest and most powerful show of disquiet, the opposition has compiled what it considers solid evidence that punches holes into the National Elections Commission management of the polls.
Wanasiasa na wasomi hatuiamini tume ya uchaguzi. Na mimi nilimwambia mzee Lubofa juzi kwamba tume yenu iko mfukoni mwa CCM. Kwa hiyo ndio maana matatizo haya yanatokea.
Days after mounting pressure on the electoral body to allow political parties to view voter registration records captured by the biometric voter registration, there are allegations of double registration, some voters' images missing, while others captured from unfamiliar quarters.
Ndani ya daftari hilo kuna Wachina. Ndani ya daftari hiyo kutakuta kuna magodown yamepigwa picha, yamepewa kadi. Kuna pikipiki zimepewa kadi za kupiga kura. Sasa tunajiuliza, tume ya uchaguzi iko serious na uchaguzi huu? Na katika mchakato wao wa kujumuisha, ilikuwaje wakashindwa kuona tatizo kubwa kama hili?
The National Elections Commission has time and again maintained that Ukawa was employing uncouth tactics, even as the body refuses the claims of rigging plans.
Sijui sisi tume inabariki sijui goli la ngapi jaji mkono? Goli la mkono. Sisi siku zote nimekuwa nikisema jamani kwamba kwenye tume msamiati huo haupo, goli la mkono haliko. Lakini ni kauli ambazo zinarejewa na nirudie tena mara nyingine kwamba kwenye tume kwa mujibu wa kanuni, kwa mujibu wa katiba, kwa mujibu wa sheria ya uchaguzi 1985, na zote hizo swala la bao la mkono haliko.
Ukawa has also cried foul over data on the number of voting centers, saying it has not been clearly put forth by the Judge Damian Lubuva Commission.
Mara ya pili wanakuja kutangaza vituo 65. Tunajiuliza hivyo vingine 7 hewa vimeenda wapi? Kwa hiyo inamaanisha bado kimsingi mpaka sasa hatuna uhakika kwamba vituo vya kupiga kura viko vingapi na viko wapi.
Ukawa has also continued rallying its supporters to keep vigil at polling stations. The law in Tanzania requires that voters observe a distance of 200 meters from the polling centers after casting their vote, a regulation recently stressed by the outgoing head of state Jakaya Kikwete, and one that is making the opposition read even more malice.
Rais Kikwete pengine jambo hili alimpendezi, na jana amesema kwamba alitumia mabavu na dola aliyokuwa nayo kuwaondoa wananchi kwenye vile vya kupiga kura kama watakuwepo kulinda kura zao. Rais Kikwete ni maamuma kwenye sheria, ni mtu ambaye sio mwanasheria, hajawahi kuingia kwenye darasa la sheria siku moja.
Sasa yeye ameshasema kwamba atawashughulikia, kwa maneno yake mwenyewe atawashughulikia. Sasa mahakama ina kazi gani?
What is the people's assessment of the referee? Will the will of the people have its way, or will democracy find itself on trial?
Pengine ingetoka tume toka nje kabisa ya usimamizi, wakatoka watu toka Marekani, wakatoka watu toka nchi tofauti, pengine bara la Amerika au Ulaya, nchi tofauti na hapa, pengine na imani kwamba swala hili hapa lingeenda vizuri zaidi.
Waache wafanye kazi yao, tuangalie nani atashinda na nani atashindwa. Yote majibu, kushinda na kushindwa yote ni majibu.
Exactly 9 days to the general elections here in Tanzania, and the opposition coalition Umoja wa Katiba ya Wananchi is building on the analogy of goli la mkono, or call it the hand of God if you may. And this now piles pressure on the National Elections Commission to provide a free and credible process. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Varying opinions there from Tanzania with just 9 days to go to the presidential election. Let's see how that goes. Let's bring you back into the country. 63 senior Kenya police officers have been sacked following vetting, which unearthed massive corruption in the service. Among those found unsuitable to serve by the National Police Service Commission is the Administration Police spokesperson Masood Mwinyi. Our reporter Timothy Oteno now brings us details of the report that reveals money laundering businesses established by the police to earn that extra coin.
We see a demoralized person.
14 months of police vetting has culminated in a police report by the National Police Service Commission that some senior officers would rather not be told about. 63 officials from the police service have been shown the door after failing to pass the integrity test rolled out during the nationwide police vetting process that commenced mid last year.
The commission found suitable, competent, and therefore retained 1,272 officers.
Among those exiting the service will be Senior Superintendents Onesmus Kipkorir, Mary Nyambura, Eric Kimosop, Superintendents Damaris Kananu, Dominic Kagunga, Isa Mohammed, and Assistant Superintendents Catherine Ringera, Bernard Kobia, and Jacob Sang, among others.
We are working on all fronts.
Appearing on the same list is Masood Mwinyi, the spokesperson for the Administration Police, who has been in service since 1986. Although the commission gave no specific reason why the long-serving 50-year-old was removed from service, it however revealed grave corruption dens within the police service that saw 8% of those vetted fail the credibility test.
Vetting has brought to the fore the complex corruption networks and the interface between junior officers and their seniors. Through a scrutiny of M-Pesa statements, the Commission was able to establish that junior officers working in the traffic department regularly transferred fixed amounts of money to some of their seniors.
The report reveals that one senior superintendent minted 7.7 million shillings in M-Pesa transactions within weeks, an amount he failed to clarify during vetting. Yet another constable was put to task over 3.1 million shillings found in his accounts that he could not clearly validate. It also emerged that most M-Pesa kiosks within and around police stations are either owned or contracted by police officers for the purposes of facilitating direct money transfer in order to cover their tracks.
But we are working with other institutions, national institutions whose responsibility is to investigate matters of criminality, including matters of corruption.
Human rights abuses, human trafficking, submission of fake bank account statements also cost many officials their job in a process that has been carried out to clean up the already tainted image of the police force. 29 officials have yet to be given a verdict concerning their vetting as the commission carries out further investigations into their conduct. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Now, he makes glass manually. His raw material is sand. Abel Sawe traveled all the way from his Kosirai village in the Rift Valley county of Nandi. He settled in an old town in Norway where he has built a successful business, which is also a tourist attraction. Here's our special correspondent, Alex Temwada, with Abel Sawe's story on Daring Abroad.
Gamlebyen is one of the oldest towns in Europe, located about 90 kilometers southeast Oslo, Norway's capital city. It is a quiet town decorated with old buildings and antiques that are jealously preserved in order to keep the town's heritage. It attracts lots and lots of tourists, especially during summer. In this neighborhood, there is a Kenyan with a rare talent Norwegians marvel at. Meet Abel Sawe, who runs a facility that produces handcrafted glass in various forms. The location is strategic. On a nice sunny morning, tourists are already flocking in, not just for his shop, but other attractions in the old town. Some would not just be seeing Sawe's art, but also buying it. The technique used here is known as glass blowing.
This is the sand that I melt to get the glass. And when I melt this one here, I get the clear glass, just like this. And this is one of the pieces that was made and was not successful. But because it has no color, then it's possible to remelt it again. Then I can mix with this, melt it together and get new glass quality.
It is all about art and science combined.
Glass is actually sand, silica and soda. But generally 70% of the glass is sand. I shovel the sand into the furnace. I fire that furnace to 1250 degrees Celsius. And then after melting the glass in 6 hours, I lower the temperature to 1120 degrees Celsius. And that is when it's possible with an iron rod to pick up the glass and blow and make different pieces. When I have glass at the end of this pipe, I can roll it. If I need a white color, I can touch on this and I get white, and this one I can get green.
Sawe is an alumnus of Lelmokwa High School in Nandi County. That's where he says he developed interest in glass blowing.
Glass blowing was a development aid whereby Finland came to start a factory near our school. but I got friends with the guys who are starting the factory. And when I finished my secondary school in 1978, they offered me a scholarship to go to Helsinki, whereby I started learning more about the glass industry.
When he completed his studies in Finland, Sawe got a job offer in Norway.
I was employed and I bought a quarter of the company. And then after a while, the other guys surrendered the company for me and I paid them off.
Sawe lays his hands on almost everything, from design and artwork to administration and marketing.
Art glass is a glass that are not produced with a machine. Most of the glasses we have like bottles and wine glasses, and so you have a machine to produce so that they look exactly the same size and the same thickness and all this. But my glass is not, they can look alike, but they are not exactly the same.
Sawe also gets orders from organizations that want custom-made glass for gifts and souvenirs.
The government system encourages artists to do what they are doing. The community here, they encourage me. They hire to me the military. They hire to me this business, the house, cheap. To start something like this, it could cost possibly 5-6 million Kenya shillings to get started.
Do you have competitors? There are the people doing what you are doing in Norway?
Yeah, there are possibly 10 other studios like this one in Norway. I do make profit, but it's not a big business, and compared to other salaries of people who work and have a business here in Norway. As an artist, it's not a lucrative business, but the idea is that I'm happy with what I'm doing. I create my own creations, and I sell the little I make, and I think I'm satisfied with the factory.
What's your dream? Are you here to stay?
No, just now I'm possibly going to retire in 5 years, 6 years. My dream actually is to bring this knowledge to the people in Kenya. There is only one place in Kenya, the Kitengela glass, where we are now working together with Nani Cross to start the first African glass blowing school. I hope we will succeed, and we are on the planning process, and things are looking good.
Sawe is among Kenyans in the diaspora whose contribution to Kenya's economy is felt through knowledge and skills transfer, as well as remittances. He has never forgotten the village that brought him up. That is Kosirai in Nandi County. He has helped build a local school thanks to support from his Norwegian friends.
Before I came here, in my village, I had no money to buy a ticket to Helsinki. So the villagers donated small money each to get my ticket, and now I'm trying to keep back their donation or in another way.
In Norway, Sawe also gives back to the nature. You will be surprised who his immediate neighbors are. Before he begins his work, this is what he does every morning. And that's daring abroad.
It's time for business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. The World Bank has trimmed Kenya's economic outlook for 2015 from 6% to 5.4% owing to a combination of exogenous shocks in the financial markets and the contractionary monetary stance occasioned by a high interest rate environment. Adelaide Chungole tells us on this week's edition of Cause and Effect.
2015 began with great optimism, with both the government and development partners banking on increased consumer spending, higher public and private investment, and the dividend from the massive investments in infrastructure to drive growth.
The economy is expected to expand further by between 6.5% to 7% in 2015.
The growth targets earned Kenya great praise and formed a critical part of the President's State of the Nation address in March.
Of the 57 fastest growing economies ranked by Bloomberg, Kenya was the third fastest growing economy behind China and the Philippines.
But 10 months into the year, and consumers have been hit by a weaker shilling that has shed 19% of its value against the dollar since September last year. On top of that, consumers are feeling the impact of the tighter monetary stance brought about by the 3% increase in the benchmark central bank rate to 11.5%. This has translated into higher lending rates and slower private sector growth.
If the supply of credit is constrained to the wider Kenyan public, that will not spur economic activity, and that will have an impact on growth.
And while the country has continued investing in infrastructure, its revenue streams have been handicapped internally by the slowdown in private sector spending and externally by the lower commodity prices that have been prevalent this year and the slower economic growth in the Eurozone region. As a result, the government has found itself relying ever more on debt to finance its infrastructural expansion.
The fiscal deficit in 2011-2012 was 4.5%. It is projected to be 8.7% this year, in the current fiscal year. Last year, which ended in June, it was 8.3%. By any standard, this is not sustainable.
And now the World Bank says Kenya cannot achieve its target of 6% economic growth this year, revising the estimates downwards to 5.4%.
The way the central bank has jacked up interest rates, that will going to affect aggregate demand, and that is going to reduce growth for 2015.
The World Bank is now calling on the government to rethink its expenditure strategy, saying it was time to trim the fat in order to ensure the long-term sustainability of the country's debt position.
We know that what we are spending our money on is okay. It's opening the productive space of the country. The country can produce more and grow much faster and achieve the 10% growth rate. But you have to live within your means at some times.
It's always ideal to identify priority sectors and provide all the resources to those priority sectors, and those that are not of immediate urgency, although they may be positive for the economy, but the resources are finite, so you cannot put in place all the projects at the same time.
Interestingly, Kenya still remains one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. According to the World Bank, even at the revised estimate of 5.4%, Kenya's outlook is higher than its peers in the sub-Saharan region, who are expected to post an average growth rate of 3.8% for 2015. Adelaide Changole for Cause and Effect.
Thanks, Adelaide. The financial difficulties facing Uchumi in Uganda and Tanzania have come to the fore, with both subsidiaries recording a combined loss of 133 million Kenyan shillings in 2014. Uchumi has already shut down operations in both countries and is seeking regulatory approval to liquidate the subsidiaries. KTN's Michael Karanja with more on what it would take to restructure one of Kenya's oldest retailers.
It came as no surprise on Wednesday when Uchumi supermarkets announced it would be shutting down its operations in both Uganda and Tanzania. Since taking over as Chief Executive Officer in August, Dr. Julius Kipngetich has made it clear that sealing revenue leakages and propping up profitability was his #1 priority. 3 branches in Uganda had already been shut down, and the decision taken to exit both markets is seen as an organic plan to stem the hemorrhage. In a statement in the local dailies, Uchumi indicated that it had been pumping an estimated 200 million shillings monthly to its Tanzania and Uganda businesses. While no specifics are given as to how long this was done, the subsidiaries' inability to be self-reliant played a big part in the management's decision to wind down operations. Between 2013 and 2014, the Ugandan business made a combined loss of 53 million shillings, while in Tanzania, it was even worse with 209 million shillings in losses. Both markets account for less than 5% of total revenue for Uchumi, making it necessary to stop the financial drain. On Monday, Ugandan dailies report that court bailiffs from push and recover agencies raided one store in Uganda seeking 5.2 million shillings payment for the supply of chicken between March and July. The BBC on Tuesday also reported that staff and suppliers in Tanzania had forced the closure of one of its stores in Tanzania amid fears they would not get paid. The Uchumi board has tasked the boards and management teams in both countries to cease operations and make arrangements to settle creditors' claims. Uchumi has also announced plans to liquidate assets in both countries to raise funds to pay off creditors and suppliers. In June, Uchumi fired Jonathan Siano as CEO for what he termed as gross negligence. Uchumi Supermarket's slump into losses was blamed on poor management, with top managers facing conflict of interest accusations, including supplying goods to their employer. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
And in Uganda alone, 400 employees have lost their jobs as a result of the closure of Uchumi in Uganda. I don't know about Tanzania, might be a huge number there as well. But a look at more business. Kenya Power has signed power purchase agreements with 4 local generators for the uptake of 20.8 megawatts additional power capacity from renewable energy sources, signed in 20-year arrangements under feed-in tariff policy that aims at encouraging investments in renewable energy projects. The power utility will draw the extra capacity from biomass, solar, mini hydro and wind microplants located in Kwale, Nairobi, Kajiado and Meru counties. Kenya Power expects renewable sources of energy will progressively reduce over-reliance of fossil fuel, which in turn will further reduce the cost of electricity to customers and the economy at large. In the agreements, Kwale International Sugar Company in Coast Region will provide 10 megawatts from its biomass-fired power, while All Nyandat Power will provide 10 megawatts from the wind power plant in Kajiado County. In addition, a solar power plant that will be developed by Strathmore University will provide 0.25 megawatt capacity, and Mount Kenya Community based organization will provide 0.6 megawatt from their mini hydro power generation plant at Ntonani Falls in Meru County. Well, we'll now take a look at the money markets. That's it for KTN Business. For more news, log on to our website, standardmedia.co.ke and ktnnews.com. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Good night.
Rally driver Eric Bengi is optimistic that he will be at his best during the final leg of the 2015 Kenya National Rally Championships on Saturday, October 24th around Konza, as rally drivers tackle the KCB National Rally season finale in Guru Nanak.
With an important session to ensure that his fancied Toyota Run X is ready for the 36th edition of the 2015 Kenya National Rally Championship, which will get underway on Saturday, October 24th, as crews tackle the season-closing KCB Guru Nanak Rally. Eric Bengi, currently second in the Kenya National Rally Championship two-wheel drive category, behind Leonardo Verase, is optimistic of a final season-ending rally. With his current fine form, Bengi hopes to score in Guru Nanak.
As a result of a few mishaps, we were hoping that by now we would have already sealed the championship. But looking forward, let's see what Guru Nanak brings. We are well prepared. We are hoping to post some very good results.
Bengi says winning is not an issue, but with a victory in his class, while Verase failed to score the required points, then the former would stand a better chance of winning the crown for the first time in his career.
As we go to Guru Nanak, we are hoping to post a very good result. Last year we did the same. We posted a very good result. We led by quite a lot of minutes in our class. We are hoping to do our best, and we are prepared to do our best.
And is it true that from a Toyota Run X, Bengi want to get an R5 for the next season?
There were just rumors. I'm not aware. Let's start from there. But I would also say they are good players. One day if we get an R5, I think we'll even post a better result.
Apart from the National Formula 2 Rally Championships, an action-packed rally it will be, with 6 times Kenyan champion Ian Duncan going for an unprecedented 13th title. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
A 110-year-old New Jersey shirt sold for £180,000 at an auction, a world record for a rugby jersey and 9 times its expected price. Take a look.
Here next door in 2 weeks. Up in Colwyn Bay at our other sale room, my father is currently cataloguing some of the most important silver that he's ever handled, and that's 50 years of auctioneering. Alex, do it glove.
Mama has Mortein Doom, which makes mosquitoes go away and not come back the whole night. So you get a peaceful night's sleep all night long.
Mortein Doom. A peaceful night is a Mortein Doom night.
So Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich describes the financial crisis as temporary. On KTN Prime tonight, we are asking you if you're encouraged by the Cabinet Secretary's assurance that the cash crunch is temporary. Augustine Wanga says, why borrow then from Kenyans as little as 3,000 shillings in form of bonds? The government is broke. Fortunately, we can't sample more of your feedback, but we appreciate it so much, and indeed for watching KTN Prime. That's where we leave it. Inside Somalia begins right now with Kasim Mohammed.